Today we have a guest, Shakti Howeth, with me, and also I have an audience. I have Safira and Michael. And today we are talking about the telepathy tapes and everything else happening at once. And we are at Hucolo Human Colony Saturday webinar, which goes for over 12 years now, every Saturday at 8 in the morning Pacific and 11 in the morning Eastern Time. And you can find us on hucolo.org, hucolo.org. And also you can find the link for this Zoom at maxrempel.com. You can just go to the site. At the first line there is a link to Zoom, and we checked, the link works, and Shakti came through it, I believe. And you can just join the discussion. And Shakti, welcome. And I would invite you to start from the most interesting part. What do you think about the telepathy tapes and how the humanity is transformed right now?
I think I just finished the last episode, episode 10 this morning, and the
Uh-huh.
message that was ringing loudly for me was just that it all comes back to love. And it's so simple and so pure, but everything that everyone is learning about psi phenomena seems to lead right back to that same essential truth.
What is love?
That's, I think it's pure connection and caring. I think the word itself has a lot of different definitions and connotations, but I think essentially it's just an energy and in its purest form it's pure connection to all that is, I think.
Okay, so I accept that. So, 10th episode. So, what's your impression at the moment?
So I've been looking at telepathy and remote viewing for many years now through books that have been written by like government remote viewers and searching for theories of everything that help to explain the nature of reality, specifically following Tom Campbell's work. And I feel like this whole podcast has presented the world with a whole new body of evidence to support these theories of everything that exist. And so I just think it's really thrilling and I've known about telepathic abilities among many different kinds of people, but this is such a specific, unique group, these nonverbal autistics. And so I think there's something interesting about the fact that the universe or the larger consciousness system has chosen to put these specific souls in these limited capacity bodies for all of the rest of us to learn something. And yeah, I think it's just really powerful work.
All right. Most interesting to me is the humanity. How would it affect the course of history?
Yep. Yeah, I think they touched on that in the last episode, and I was wondering if they were going to go here, but basically the notion that all of us are moving towards this new, they called it modern communication, but it's also ancient, but these abilities to communicate mind to mind or spirit to spirit, these abilities to access the larger system of reality. Some people call it the Akashic records or the database of all that is, but these abilities are available to all of humanity, and maybe they were suggesting that we're at a turning point, which many people have been thinking and feeling for a long time, and this is just one movement in that effort for all of us to come online to our greater abilities.
Okay, great. So we outlined the main topic, and now I want to connect to personality, to your personal take, and to emotions. So I cried pretty much every episode.
Me too.
I listened to that, and now I played it to my family. So I listened to the first half of it, I think 6 times already, because I put someone in the car and start playing them. So I got used to that, but still there is a extraordinary feeling when you hear that. So what's your take?
I felt the same way. I cried in almost every episode, and for me, it's so personal because I've had experiences of connecting to non-physical energies or entities or consciousness units. And I've been spending years trying to understand what that is, where it's coming from, who it is. Can I tie it to a person, a body? Is it an entity outside of this reality? And um, I think what it really comes down to is that all of these consciousness units, whether it's focused in a body or outside of this reality, we all have these emotional connections and we all have our own pain and our own lessons and our journeys that we're on. And so it was just really heartwarming that these savants basically were mostly expressing their desire to connect and to be understood and to be loved. And they mentioned so many times that hateful energy and negativity kind of blocks the signal and scrambles the ability to connect. And so I think that was a really important part of all that we learned in these first 10 episodes.
Uh-huh. So where are we now? What's the stumbling block? Where are the decisions that we need to make, and what are the opportunities? Where should we go?
I think it's a few different things. I see it like this. There's the learning component, and then there's the self evolution or the knowing of the self. So I think we have to do both simultaneously as we move through this transition. So we need to stay in these communities of learning where we're sharing information, having philosophical discussions, reflecting on all that is out there already to help us understand reality better. And as we're learning from that analytical perspective, we also need to be doing our emotional growth and learning simultaneously. And I think that really just starts at the base level, which is the connection to ourselves and our bodies, and then the people closest to us, and kind of spreading out from there.
Right. So now for the people who have no idea what the telepathy tapes are, you can give a little introduction.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, this is a podcast series created by Kai Dickens, and it follows the discoveries of families and teachers who work with nonverbal autistic kids and people. And as you go through this journey of discovery, episode by episode, each one builds on the next. You start to learn that not only are these people communicating with their teachers and parents, but they're also communicating with each other in something that seems like a virtual space called the Hill, which is outside of physical reality. And all of these nonverbal autistic folks are able to meet there, and the scientists who are studying it are able to verify that real information is being passed in these virtual quote unquote spaces because they exist in consciousness. And it just goes beyond that, even into like spiritual messages and the ability to just understand information from reality, from the fabric of reality, not just other people's minds, but for example, some of these people can put their hand on a book and absorb all of the information of that book instantaneously. So it's basically all the psi phenomena that I've learned about in Tom Campbell's theory of everything. It's all described in this podcast series, one episode at a time. They touch on these different abilities and paranormal happenings, and you start to realize that there's a lot of functions of consciousness going on here, not just telepathy.
Super. So, but what is new? Like the psychic research is has been forever. It was rediscovered in the end of 19th century. So what's new now?
I think what's new now is the specific messages that these people are bringing to the table. It's not just proving that they have these abilities, but it's also showing that there is a purpose and a meaning behind all of this. So I think it really comes back to the message of love and connection. And that's kind of where this whole series culminates. They bring us back into the messages of these nonverbal people who are able to spell through different devices, and with the assistance of their caretakers, they're able to type out messages sometimes. And so when you start to hear the direct messages, it's just all going back to that message of love and understanding, working together, us as humanity creating a more inclusive atmosphere for everyone and presuming competence. So I think that's the big shift here. It's like we live in a materialist worldview for the most part. And until we move beyond that into a greater understanding that still leaves room for that, but also includes more, until we make that leap, we are doing a disservice to ourselves and each other because we are often putting people in boxes and presuming incompetence when we should be assuming that everyone is consciousness and there's a lot more going on under the surface of our physical reality.
Right. So I'm torn between different desires to go in different directions. My nature is to break patterns and to go into something very new, very novel. So I will probe that and see how it goes. And I don't want to hurt you, but there is a lot of energies around which are sharp and big.
Mm.
One of these energies is a tragedy of the families having autists. Like very few broke through the veil and learned them, taught them to type, like
Mhm.
on iPad on some or something else, and there is a communication going, but lots of them didn't, and for them it is a tragedy that it's not only emotional, it's very physical. I see a lot of parents. I don't see them nearby. I see them in the society. A lot of parents struggling just to keep them alive, the autists, and it's a lot of physical strain. And it's a tragedy that it's the person is very dysfunctional. So it's for them, they take it very negatively. And now it's the new message is that it's not that negative. It's an evolutionary step. It's a price we pay to connect to something much higher, and it's actually the future. So there is hope, but that hope is on the top of a lot of emotional stress and strain. So that's one of the energies, and there is lots of energies of fear and ownership and territory. I tried to connect to local autists. I tried to connect to creators of the podcast. I got like a little bit there, but there was a pushback. It's basically essentially, I feel that I'm not pure enough. I'm not clean enough. I'm not happy enough. The key is happy. I'm not happy enough. So then I'm trying to connect to local ones and global ones, just to speak to them like, hey, we want to connect to you. We want to broadcast your message. And apparently the same thing. I'm not bright enough and not happy enough to uh, to be accepted right away. I got some connections, possibly a couple of them are here actually. Hey Adriana and hey Marlene, you're welcome. But it's not huge. It's not like, yay, we are here, let's hug again and hug together and dance together. It's more sophisticated.
May I make a comment, Max, on
Go
that?
ahead, go ahead.
I think it's
Safira is all-time friend and main participant on few Hucolo webinars. Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Thank you, Max. So good to see you. I just wanted to make a comment that I'm hearing it's not so much that you're not bright enough and pure enough and happy enough, but they are guarding against reporting type of people coming in to report and investigate. They want to guard against that for the autism, not so much because of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's possibly, but we got also the message that they won't broadcast their things, but they probably want some other broadcast. They want Kai to do that because Kai is a superhuman.
Ah,
Adriana has a question. Go ahead.
Just unmuting. Takes a second for the button to work. Good
Uh-huh.
morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Sorry I joined late. The question I have is, have you already talked about some of the more aggressive expressions that autistic and nonverbal people and their caregivers have to contend with? And the reason I'm asking is because my aunt was a pioneer in the field of autism, and she had a autistic nephew who was very physical, and it caused a lot of disharmony in my family.
Okay, you're talking, so there are two negative reactions. One is just them being wild beasts, the autistic individuals. And another one is that parents are, to curb that negativity, also have to be very tough. When you see the videos like the movie The Spillers, the parents and the caregivers have to be like really tough and really controlling. And the third one is the community is also very tough. So there is a lot of toughness. And the next one is very funny, but I'm talking to my enlightened light workers, friends, yogis, and they don't accept it. That's like, hey guys, you're talking about the spirit all the time. Why don't you love telepathy tapes? And that is like blank. No, we are into yoga, and telepathy tapes is something else. It's not our territory. So there is a lot of territorial things. So speaking about wild beasts, my theory is that it's some sort of possession. There is like two minds. One is lower mind, which is a mind of a beast, and it could be very destructive and negative, destructive. And there is a higher mind, which is bound to that body and which is supposed to drive that body, which cannot get the hands on the steering wheel. So I'm reading the book by one of the mother and the autist, and he's already being an adult, is trying to get control of his body, to get the possession of his own body, and the body doesn't want to, basically resists a lot. So I sort of addressed it, but Shakti, now I'm returning the microphone to you back. Try to bring it up to some happy and positive mood.
Well, it may not be happy and positive, but I do think that there's another way to look at these layers of self. And I think that the way some people describe it is kind of the rule set of reality. So, for example, we're all born into a life and into a body. And as far as we know, we don't have control over that. We can't control the gender, the race, the family, the socioeconomic level that we come into life at. Those are the cards that we're given at the beginning of our life. And then our soul or our consciousness is filtering through whatever that is. And so there are real limitations. Like if you were born with a body or a mental or neurological system that is limited, your consciousness may be this brilliant genius in some other dimension and outside of this reality, but it has to filter through the confines of the rule set of this body and life that you were born into. So the way I see it is, I assume that we have many lives. That's the best information that I've been able to, connect to. It seems probable to me that we have many lives, and in each one, we're filtering through a different body-mind set to have different experiences and to do different work and to learn different lessons. And all of us collectively being ourselves and living in the bodies that we have, minding our own business and doing our own lessons is all contributing to this greater consciousness understanding. So to me, every experience is valid and important because they're all rounding out this really whole complex thing. But that includes a ton of pain and suffering. It includes a lot of things that don't seem fair or right on the surface. And I don't think that anyone is being punished by being put into those positions. I actually think maybe it's quite the opposite, where the most evolved, powerful, beautiful souls are the ones that are in the most limited and constricting conditions because they've come so far that they can handle that. Their soul is meant for that life. And you can really feel that in this podcast, because the souls that are speaking to us through these limited bodies they're giving these profound messages. They're so loving and pure.
I think it is a hopeless task to try to justify things. You just can, as a scientist, I can just observe and say it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. As Bashar says, everything is always perfect. And the same message was from Nim Karoli Baba and Ramdas. Everything is always perfect, but we still have the choices to do because we are in our bodies. Adriana, do you want to comment on that? Because you brought up the question. What's your take on it?
Well, first I want to say that my aunt was and is a very compassionate person. And like I said, she was a pioneer in the field of autism. So her work actually did a lot to allow for disabilities to be accommodated. And yet she also had this experience with an autistic nephew, or in her case, an autistic son-in-law, that was physical. And the reason I was asking is because she so wanted to understand and communicate and help him. And she just did not have enough understanding because things hadn't advanced enough. And I know there are lots of families and parents out there who are dealing with the frustration of the only way their autistic person seems to communicate is through violence. And so I was hoping that there could be, something to offer them because their hearts are in it too.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to jump in and say that, like, I'm not an expert on autism at all. We're just talking about this podcast that we connected to, but I have had an experience of being deeply in love with a person who had violent tendencies and who was unable to control certain aspects of their violent expressions. And that was a really painful and like a hard situation to understand and to be a part of. And in my own experience, I had to create physical distance, but I understand that when you're a parent, there is no distance. You got to deal with that. Like Max was saying, it is what it is. So you're in this really intense day-to-day struggle scenario that, none of us can really fathom unless we have any experience with that. And I could never begin to explain why or how people end up in those situations. But I hear what you're saying, that that we who love people like that want to find solutions and want to be able to provide some kind of support, and it's really hard to understand what that looks like and how we're supposed to do that.
Yeah, I just see this huge dichotomy between nonverbal people are either amazing, savants and to be worshipped as spiritual beings, or they're violent, horrible offenders that need to be institutionalized. And I'm like, wait, no.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got. Thank you.
I brought up 5 children, and we are pretty much everyone in the family have ADHD, and I have inner violence which I have to repress, and this violence comes, I think, from the energies. It's from Russian upbringing when you were trained to be violent. You wouldn't survive unless you were violent. You had to fight in the kindergarten and in the school. And on the streets, you were immersed in very real one. You had to be part of it. And then I'm being trained by the higher forces to heal it. And I get this dream very often, once a month or something, where I'm being tested in a new condition where I'm prompted to be violent. And in that dream, I either jump into violence or don't. And I sort of remember that I'm not supposed to, but sometimes it's just the situation is such that it's prompting you to become violent, like you're being pressed against the wall by criminals or something like that. And so it's I guess it's one of the major topics of the humanity. It's one of the major things, and I blamed I blame part of it, of course, on culture, like Western culture, modern culture, but part of it I got to realize is the planet's energies. We are sort of a mold or flowers or plants. We are grew from the planet, and we are bathing in planet's energies, and we are in big extent part of the planet's energies. I see it specifically, not only me, in Russia-Ukraine conflict and French. Like, I grew up in Moscow, and in last couple hundred years, the population of Moscow was replaced almost completely. Like in many European countries, the population is replaced. Now it's different genetics. It's different people came. Like 99% of Muscovites now are from outside, and different genetics, different races. So it's not genetics, but the culture remains the same. The patterns remain from 8th century. No, okay, all right, 11th century. So some Russian patterns. That patterns. I mean, Moscow was founded a bit later, but last several centuries, the patterns of behavior remain the same. You can see what happens now repeats over and over. Same political patterns. So it's not genetics. Language changed a lot. Politics changed radically. There's nothing else left. It's only the ground which holds the energies. So the pattern of the river Moscow, river and the city around, on the hills hold that energy, making Moscow create these movements. And the same thing with Paris, where the river Sena is very similar to river Moscow, and the pattern of the city is the same. And they do the same kind of bloody revolutions and other things. So my conclusion, and it's not only me concluding, my conclusion is that it's something bound to the ground. These ancient fights are still playing in us. It's not only us. It's something else. It's ley lines. This earth energy is coming out, and right now we are replaying the self-destruction of Atlantis. Replaying the same scenario. It's the same souls from Atlantis coming again. And Atlanteans were the different race. It wasn't humans. It was a previous root race. But we came here to replay that, and hopefully we will not self-destruct as Atlantis did. Okay, so I overlaid a major topic related to the telepathy tapes is evolution of humanity and replaying old patterns. And I'm returning microphones to whoever wants to take it.
I mean, I have a thought about the patterns because I think it reminds me of just like even in your own life, let's say relationship is a good example because I have a lot of women friends and we talk about dating a lot. You know what I mean? And sometimes you'll hear about like, oh, I'm dating the same person, or oh, I have to keep learning the same lesson. Why can't I get past the same lesson? Why do I keep attracting the same dynamic? And you're talking about a collective experience of a whole society having to repeat a lesson and go through the same pattern again. And so what do you do when that's happening? And I think that's where it really comes back down to our individual responsibility to tune into the choices that we're making and see if there's an area where we need to make a different decision. And what is that decision? It's probably not going to be this big, like, oh, this is how we change society. Here's the answer. Quick, tell everybody, let's all do it. I have an instinct that it's more like waking up every day. What do I need to do right now? What is the next most important thing I need to do? Am I listening to the energy around every decision that is in front of me? Am I making new decisions? Am I doing things differently? Because if not, most likely we're going to have to watch ourselves play out the exact same patterns that we've done so many times before. And maybe we're just making little incremental changes over time, but how could we make a more significant change? I think we have to each take responsibility for the decision space that we have.
So your favorite topic is primacy of consciousness.
Yes.
And same here. I just finished 99% finished a chapter on primary of consciousness and connected this to the idea of dance of DNA and the DNA holography. So the body is an illusion, the ego is an illusion, and the free will is an illusion. But yet we are in that illusionary game where the universal consciousness fragmented itself and filtered itself enough to create this illusion of individual life. And even if you and I know that we are the universal consciousness trapped into this body, we still have to untrap ourselves and somehow reconnect back to the universal consciousness. And when we are trying to reconnect, and we are reconnecting, the methods are actually the same as always. It's meditation, awareness, control of the point of attention, and prayers, and all the shaban, all the methods of spiritual work as they were during many centuries. We basically have to do the spiritual work to reconnect ourselves to the outside universal consciousness.
I think that's true. I think it's also, just like you said, we can say like, oh, the body is an illusion, but it doesn't feel that way. We're going to get burned if we touch fire. We will be hurt if we come into contact with physical violence. And so denying all of that just seems like a huge mistake. I think while we're learning, we also have to just pay close attention to what this physical experience has to offer. And that's why I think we have to deal with exactly what's in front of us on a given day, like, did you make your bed? Were you nice to the waiter who served you coffee? Did you keep your space clean? Did you interact with people in a loving, compassionate way throughout the day? And it's not very glamorous, big spiritual work. It's not like maybe we're not all connecting to other realms all the time, but are we just minding our own business and going through the day, in the optimal way? And if we build on that, that's when I think people become more effective at a greater level and are able to make these huge contributions. Like Kai Dickens made this great contribution, and she mentioned that she kind of asked the universe for that before it started. She said, how can I be serviceful? Like I want my career path to be purposeful. And then she had an instinct and was led to this story. And in her analytical way, she approached it and she offered us this great gift, that's going to affect so many people. But she did that by starting with asking the question, what do I need to be doing next to align with my purpose? I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, Kai is great, and she did a great job. So there is a split of the road. I don't know where to go. One of the topics is, since it's all an illusion, I'm sure it's an illusion. What makes me less afraid is understanding that there is outside force of me which writes the scenario, writes the plot. And I discovered that the plot is written so it will be very scary, but it's maximized for the biggest drama. It's a personal plot, but also it's a collective plot. Collective plot for humanity is maximized to make it a very interesting television series. It would be very threatening threats, very scary threats. But they have to keep it going, make it the next season, make next episode. So although the threats are huge, there will be a continuation, most likely. But the threats are very real, so otherwise it wouldn't be interesting. So there are very real threats, and that's what allows me to think about big questions without being too scared. Right, and coming here, what I read here is that You came to Hucolo. Hucolo is all about alien hybrids.
Mhm.
It's the topic we discuss for since October 2013, actually from June 2013, with channelers, alien hybrids. We talk with aliens, we talk with the souls, with the spirits, with different energies, gods, and most of that with the hybrids. And we know that the hybrids are telepathic. We know that outside of the planet there is lots of telepathic races, and that it is very normal for the civilization to go through non-telepathic stage, which is called 3D, and then to evolve to 4D through telepathy. So we were waiting for this telepathy, and the fact that it was finally rediscovered and popularized is just, oh, we waited for that, and now it happened. It's just so simple. And now we just kind of expect when the humanity will jump into collective telepathy. So the numbers are that every 1 out of 30 people, 1 out of 30 children of 10 years old right now is autistic in the Western world, in the modern world. And that number doubles every 8 years. So about 30 years ago, there was pretty much 100 times less or even less. Although not every autistic child is telepathic. So out of autistic children, maybe 1/10 are non-verbal telepaths. So that makes 1 out of 300. So many millions, hundreds of millions of people on the planet are telepaths connected to a telepathic network. So that's the biggest discovery which of Kai Dickens and Diane Hennessy Powell. And that's the biggest news. So we, in addition to dolphins and whales, which are not, are telepathic, in addition to mycorrhizal network of mushrooms surrounding the planet, which is, I think, is telepathic, we now get humans who are telepathic, and that's, from the evolutionary perspective, it is the biggest awareness. So what do you think about that? Let me give you the microphone.
I think about this all the time. I'm just like you. And I've been studying abduction research for a while, so I'm with you on the hybridization stuff, and I would love to hear more about all of your thoughts on that in a minute. But when it comes to the mycorrhizal network of humanity or of consciousness, I think that we have some, I do think it's available to all of us, this telepathy and connection to all reality. I think that there are some psychological, spiritual steps that we have to go through in order to access these abilities. But I also believe that each generation coming in seems to have more direct access. And often what happens is that the culture, it squeezes out these notions at a pretty young age so that we start to lock ourselves in through our beliefs. So I think what we're dealing with right now is like for us who are already adults, we have the responsibility of creating frameworks that look at reality, look at people coming into reality, children, and all different levels of ability and different types of people. And we presume competency with everyone across the board. We presume telepathy, and then we look and see what areas, where are we contributing to systems that block out the ability to accept that part of reality. So like education systems and philosophical systems that block us in. And we have to work against that to some extent. But I think those of us that are already adults who have grown into really crystallized personalities, we have a lot of layers that we've had to create to navigate life, to protect ourselves, to interface with other people. We all wear masks. You hear in autism communities, it's a whole spectrum. So people that are a little closer to us on the spectrum, they still talk about masking and layers of personality that they've had to create to navigate society. And I think all of us have to move towards an unmasking. So individually, I think we have to first of all, create an alignment in our own thoughts, words, and actions to reach that level of purity that these savants are teaching us about. They said early on, one of them said in episode 3, I think it was, you don't get the kind of gifts that I have by lying. And
Yes, yes, yes. That
that was
I
amazing,
took a note of that as well.
right?
Yeah.
And what I mean, that rang so true for me because it's like we all have to lie sometimes, that's part of life. We're all trained to lie, but how can we strip away that tendency? How can we reprogram and retrain ourselves? And it's like something we have to do as individuals, but kind of a safe space has to be created for people to be authentic with each other and be real. It's not easy, and I think that's our life's work is to start stripping away those layers of falseness that we created out of fear and insecurity or pure necessity and help create systems of support so that more humans can feel safe. Because if we're hearing thoughts, we're going to hear a lot of stuff we didn't want to hear, and it's going to get really chaotic really quickly. And then it's like dropping rocks in a pool of water, and all the different ripples are interfering until it's just pure chaos and noise, and then people are suffering. And so that's why going back to the meditation, the teachers that are working with these autistic kids said they had to train themselves to quiet their mind when the kids had to answer a question. Were they going to pick up on the teacher's thoughts or think their own thoughts? And so the teacher had to do things like, I'm just going to say pumpkin over and over again in my mind because I don't know what else to do to get my thoughts to quiet. That's an ancient meditation technique of focusing on one thought at a time. So we have to go back to these ancient teachings and we just have to start doing the exercises like going to the gym, but it's mental exercises of how can I quiet my mind? What does it take? It's going to be different for all of us.
Yeah, I test telepathy in all family and friends, and we suck at telepathy. It's we cannot send the numbers, images very rarely. Once I was able to, when I'm sending, I think I cannot focus strongly enough because my mind is like everywhere. But when I receive, like I have this scientific way of like focusing on thing and grabbing it. So if I focus on the person, I can. I once I was able to grab a very pretty precise image from the mind. Um, we many years ago now, we created an astral colony. It's called human colony, basically astral place where we meet with the hybrids in astral, and they teach us telepathy there. And my astral daughter, who was a teacher there, said, asked a very simple question. For telepathy to work, we need a person to be in a positive state of mind, happy for 6 days in a row. How can we do that?
Wow.
And I still don't know the answer. At that time, I sort of tried to come up with some answer, but 6 days in a row is only basically I was happy when I was in love with my female partner. When it was like just starting, that was 6 days of being super high. Everything was flowing, but I think at that time some sort of gateway opened, some gate opened, so the universal energy just flows down. But to artificially create it to stay high for 6 days, what drug can you take, or what support group do you need to have? You have to like forget all of your troubles, all of your career, forget about politics, anything. So that's
Yeah.
pretty much impossible. Like maybe 5 minutes is is the most we can stay happy and positive and clear, right?
I mean, I think that's very interesting and specific, the 6 days in a row. But what it makes me think of is a structure that people create when they do a retreat, for example.
Yes,
So
yes.
maybe the
Disconnect from
message,
internet. Yeah.
yeah, maybe the message for you that you were getting was really about here's one way, and it includes an uninterrupted amount of time of being in a certain altered state. And, one way that we can practice that is through a meditation retreat or a silent retreat can be a really good one. But I have heard from other people who study this that that there are many ways and that we don't have to be happy all the time. There's a lot of people who are not happy all the time who are still getting
Yeah,
information, you know? So,
yeah, there should be a way around, or maybe you oscillate between happy and happy, and you kind of switch quickly, be in a mood, and then switch back to normal. Because going back to family and work and just being bathed in energies is you have to have like protect lots of protection layers.
I feel like there's never enough. Like I've been trying to shield myself and protect myself for so many years and it doesn't work. Like it doesn't totally work for me because
Yeah.
I have also tried to simultaneously create an openness in myself because I want that information. I want to know what people are feeling around me. And I do know a lot of that. And sometimes it is chaotic. And the only thing I've learned to do is to be alone, physically and mentally alone in quiet. That's the only way I can come back and understand what are my own thoughts and feelings. And even alone, I can still connect to people far away. And immediately, as soon as I think about it, I'm tapping back into their whole energy field, which I think all of us are doing all the time.
One of lessons I learned, it's the main teaching of Ramdas essentially, that you give up essentially. You don't carry full responsibility for present and the future. You trust of being guided. The same thing of as the autobiography of a yogi by Yogananda is essentially trusting that you've been guided and just delegate to your spirit guides, higher self, and the universe to take care of the business, and you just play your part without actually carrying the whole heavy weight of the future of yourself, family, and humanity.
Do
And
you,
that's easy to say, but that's huge.
yeah, I was going to ask, is that something that you have tried?
Oh, that's the only way I survive. Like I somehow, if I'm so enlightened, why I'm so depressed and why there is so much pain. So the only way is like every moment or every now and then, many times a day, just to give up and lift yourself up without no any reason, without just no reason, just decide to be positive without any justification for that.
It's funny because I grew up with, so my parents brought me to a yoga ashram when I was 5, and that's where I was raised. So I grew up with these philosophies, and because of that, I've been rebelling against it my whole life a little bit, you know, because if you already grow up with that, of course, you're going to question it a lot. So when people talk about just surrendering to a higher power, it kind of annoys me because I think that we have to make our own, we have to get involved. We're supposed to have an opinion. This is just my way of seeing it, but I think we are supposed to be in it, making decisions. And so sometimes if we're just always in that bliss state of giving things up, it's like we're letting someone else do the work for us and they're going to get credit for the work. We're not going to get that soul credit. We're not going to evolve unless we're in it, in the suffering, making decisions. So I don't know. I just feel like it's okay to be in it, feeling it. And then sometimes tapping into that surrender is like it's something that's available, but it's maybe not the thing that I would want to do all the time. I just think it's something that is useful to apply from time to time.
That higher power is also us. There is nothing else beyond us. It's just the question that in this body you can place only that much of awareness. And there is a lot of processes that happen unconsciously outside of the body, somewhere in the astral. So uh, trying to control everything is just purely inefficient. So the question is, where is your control? What is efficient to control, and what we can let go and be on autonomous, automatic? So you just send a message like, "Hey guys, like part of me there, which is my higher self, part of me there, which is my demons. Here is my intention. Go and do it, and I trust you." Delegate essentially to what in Sephira knows, but in Rochester we used to have a great gathering, and there was a guy who fired his own higher self. He just didn't like him. He said, you're fired. I want another one. And that is actually sort of real because both me and the friend, the co-founder of Hucolo, Jim, we both received a new higher self. It's not we fired, we just were like, the old one sort of steps a bit on the side. I think it's still there, but there is a new one assigned. So we have like a double, two like president and vice president, something like that.
That's cool.
Okay, two main topics I wouldn't forget. So one main topic is that Blavatsky, six root races. I feel Blavatsky is one of my kind. We are related, maybe not as hey Sefir, nice to see you. Not as
Thank you.
not necessarily genetically, but it's maybe astrally. So she is from my dragon family or something of that sort. Anyway, she said that there were 5 root races. We are the 5th one, called Aryans. The previous one is 4th one is Atlanteans. 3rd is Lemurians. Before that is Hyperboreans. Before that, Polarians. So, and only Lemurians became physical on this planet, and Atlanteans were the most physical. Their main purpose was to develop physicality of the human body, but it was pre-human. It's different species. And then they self-destructed, and many of them left. And then now the Aryan race was recreated by mixing Atlanteans, Neanderthals, other hominids, and 20 plus alien races. And Bashar says that the new race is coming. And I thought that this autists is a new hybrid race, but friends from a Facebook group, a Russian Facebook group, two different, send a message that this is an intermediate step and a new step is coming a couple years from now. The new hybrids are coming. It is related to the human design astrological prophecy from 50 years ago, 40 years ago. So the new race doesn't have a name. Bashar called it Homo Galacticus, us kind of stepping out of the planet. And I wonder what would be the property of this new race. Maybe since these autists, they cannot control their bodies, maybe the new race will be both present in the bodies and telepathic at the same time. At least that's kind of an obvious evolutionary step. But on the other hand, we are capable of telepathy. My abductees, when they meet aliens, either here or when they're taken to the ships or elsewhere, they can live there for a long time. Like some of them live like pretty much. They were taken as adults and they live many years, tens of years. They're very comfortable in telepathic races. They just easily learn telepathy. When you're surrounded by telepathic people, they are. So genetically, we are perfectly telepathic. It's only our Western education upbringing which breaks it.
Yeah.
So I said it. The 6th race is coming. Homo Galacticus. Autists is next to dolphins. Dolphins were carrying this collective consciousness. Now, human autists are the ones who build the collective human consciousness around the planet. And we are moving there.
Can I ask you a question about hybrid stuff?
Oh, yeah.
So I've always been curious because everyone has a different way of explaining it, it seems like. But from your perspective, because I saw that you study DNA and I listened to some of your other talks, and I thought that was
Thanks.
very interesting when you said all the DNA in your body, it's almost like you could fill a glass with it. Like it's a physical object.
It's a
thing.
physical chemistry. It's about 250 grams, about, a cup.
Yeah. And what
if
I'm
you
curious,
extract and dry, that would be about that.
And were you saying that when you study, have you been able to determine genetic differences in people who say that they're hybrids, or has that the work that is starting, or do you see hybridization as more of a cross-dimensional soul hybridization? Because obviously, when we talk about aliens, a lot of people are having non-physical interactions with them on various planes, but some people think that they're also having physical interactions. And for a long time, scientists and researchers have been studying hybridization from a physical perspective, but also considering that something else might be going on. Do you have a take on that? Do you think it's both or one or the other, that there's a physical hybridization or it's more of a soul hybridization?
This is a question on, it's a big answer. Yes, both. Clearly, there is physical DNA for sure. There's two strands sequenced. We can. It costs about $3,000 to get the sequence from the beginning to the end, and it's very physical, very reproducible. You can repeat it several times, you will get pretty much the same answer. I believe in the physical there was a hybridization and continuous hybridization, and humanity has a lot of variety. Like if you look only on protein coding genes, which is 4.5% of the genome, protein coding sequences, then there is less variation. But if you look between the protein coding sequences, 95+%, then there is a huge variation, especially in the repetitive part, which became possible to analyze only last few years. So there is a lot of place where aliens can tweak and add and modify, and those things are very physical, very precise. And that's what they do. They take people, abduct, usually ask for permission. Some of them certainly do, and some of them kind of don't, but the good ones ask for permissions, and then they take the DNA from both parents, but also they take the DNA from two alien parents and make a hybrid which has 90+% of human, but a little bit of the alien. And if you put too much of the alien, you get autists. And if you put too little, you don't get a lot of improvement. So they play some of them, like the initial experiments were forever, but a lot of them were in the 50s, so 70 years ago. And initials were very clumsy. It was painful, and the hybrids were pretty poorly designed. But in the last 70 years, they sort of improved the process, so now they can make designer hybrids which can survive here, be comfortable here, and also have lots of alien talents and improved telepathy and mental abilities. So we know that from lots of different sources, and not only mine. It's pretty much common knowledge. You just need to start searching, and you will find. Bashar is one of the sources, and John Mack is a great source of abductions. So my research is more theoretical, but we started the project as XG1. We just designed the program. It's very simple. What we can do right now without extra funding, it was only from my salary. I just paid the programmer. We did the program. We can see if two parents and one child, if the parents suspect the mother was abducted and impregnated, then a child should have the insertions of alien sequences, very physical ones. And we can look just very cheap analysis with 23andMe. It's pretty intensive. It is 500,000 dot markers across the genome. So it's a lot of data points. We can look if there is an insertion which comes from neither of the parents. In classical human genetics, that's impossible to happen unless there was genetic engineering. So we can just see the trace of genetic engineering, and we checked only 3 families. One was actually who gave the DNA from the data to me, and then 2 ones we just got from published studies on internet. And out of 3 families, 2 had very profound insertions. It just happened. Very clear, statistically significant, very clear. It's not one insertion. It's a bunch of, I don't remember, 30 points in a row, mutations which were inserted, which are coming in the child from neither of the parents. And that's a discovery by itself. I am, plan to continue. And right now, if anybody has 2 parents, they just spit in a tube, and a child spits it, so 3 tubes, send it to 23andMe, download the data, give it to me. I will analyze it for free, and we will analyze it, and we'll tell you if you have an insertion in the child. So that's very doable, and with funding, it would be very easy to go to any ufology conference, abductee conferences. Lots of people would have alive parents and a child and would want to test. And once we got lots of those, it would be possible to do just take a 1 person DNA and say you belong to that kind of alien race. But at the moment, we don't have that.
That's so exciting and interesting. I'm reading John Mack right now, so I'm familiar with and Bashar. I've checked out Bashar a little bit too, and do a bunch of
Bashar is great.
research. Yeah, I do all kinds of research on this, but I've been curious ever since these platforms like 23andMe came onto the scene and everyone got excited. I've always wondered in the back of my mind if companies or scientific institutions are testing
Or
for
hospitals,
hybridization
yeah.
behind the scenes, you know?
Yep. And I think it's. I think they do.
Yeah,
I think they already have a database of us.
they must.
So very easy.
Yeah. I mean, and
The
would
technology
any
is there
scientist
for
would want to
20
know,
years
right?
now. Say again?
Any scientist would want to know. It seems like once you had the ability to analyze that data and you know that there's information floating around the world about these hybridization programs, somebody wants to test that, you would think.
Of course.
Yeah.
Hey, Max,
So
real quick.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, real quick, because I can't type. I don't have a keyboard to type that I have a question.
Sure.
So other people have questions before me, but please don't forget me after you finish with them. In the chat, there's a few questions.
Okay, we'll check it out.
I can't ask. I have a question, but I can't ask it in writing. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. No. Go ahead. Safir, go ahead.
Well, there's somebody else who was ahead of me.
I will violate the rules.
Adriana. Okay. Thank you. So when you guys say use the word hybrid, would it be possible to define what kind of hybrid? Because when I think of the word hybrid, I have a few hybrid children, and they are a combination of DNA between myself and Jim and Liren, a Liren child. Jim and I share a child, and it's Liren and human. So that's when I think of hybrid, and also the fact
we
that
just say human-alien hybrids, where there is a classical human genome and there is
but we're just using the word hybrid in general, and so I get confused because I think of hybrid as my children hybrid and the hybrids that are coming to Earth from the intergalactic.
It's coming from agriculture. When you take 2 different plants, you merge them together, you create a hybrid plant. So 2 different
No, I get it.
races
I get the
are
idea.
combined.
Yeah. No, I get the idea of hybrid. I don't mean I needed a definition of hybrid, but there's several different types of hybrid.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
the
of course.
That's what I'm saying. The hybrid that you're talking of right now in your research, there's the hybrid that the hybridization the aliens are using, and they're using human DNA to improve other races in the galaxy. So that's all. I just wanted to ask for a delineation between what type of hybrid we're talking about.
Yeah, by the way, we're all ancient hybrid. We all have
Yeah.
Neanderthal
Yeah.
and other and Atlantean and Pleiadian, Gray, Arcturian,
Right.
Lyran, and many other ancient. But that sort of evolved in the planet, so we sort of adjusted. We adapted our genome to the planet. But now there is a new wave of hybridization.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me ask that. Thank you.
So I just want you asked also, Shakti, if there is a soul. Of course, there are alien souls. That's like very clear. Like that can be like a gray soul coming to a human body, and it's just recognizable on a soul level. Maybe it has a little bit of DNA modification, but in many ways it can be very, very human body, but still a very alien soul there. So there is genetics, there is incarnations, and these are somehow linked, but it could be in any proportions. Yeah. So I remember one of my incarnations on another planet, and that sort of defines me. I uh, when I meet people from my alien tribe, I'm so it's Pleiadian system. The planet is the star is called Taygeta. The planet is called Tara, and there we sing that song. I will sing it now. If maybe somebody recognizes the song. Onayahan nahan 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 hulayahan nahan nahan hulayahan ayana yaha umahayana yahana hulayana hayana umahayana hayana. It's a very simple song, but when I meet people from my tribe, they sing the same song.
Hmm.
It just came, it just comes.
I love that. I think, singing that brings up an interesting point because in one of the telepathy tapes, remember the one who makes music?
Uh-huh.
And I think there's a key in music and light language around telepathy. And I think what those things are trying to show us is that the vibrational information can be passed in different ways that are non-verbal. So music, and so I think about I grew up learning a lot of Sanskrit chants and prayers, and the way that they taught it to me was that Sanskrit is a vibrational language, and so the sound that it makes, the sound you're making is the meaning. The sound is the meaning. So the English language, for example, it's different. A word is it's a program for a concept, and then over time that program gains more information as more people use that word in different ways. But the nonverbal autistic community was saying that like sometimes the words can't even convey what we're experiencing in these other places. They're not enough, or they're limiting. And also um I think that for us humans that are trying to tap into our telepathic abilities, music and dance are really powerful ways to do that because those bypass our regular critical thinking mind and
Right,
they put us into a different operating place.
right. And also, I love thinking in non-language.
Yeah.
Just I enjoy thinking in concepts which I put the words away and think about something without words.
Yeah. And for me, I listen to what's behind everyone's words. So if someone is living a pretty authentic and pure existence, everything they say has a ring of truth to it. The word itself is carrying the meaning. But if someone is lying or masking, it's almost like I can hear the meaning behind the word even louder. You know what I mean? So I think for all of us, there's something going on where as we move into this new moment in time, all of us are going to start hearing the truth behind the word, behind the the mask, basically.
In my yoga studio, they all talk about spirituality, and but they require that I open my mouth to say something. I'm sending them telepathic messages, and they just don't take it, and they want me to say something.
Mhm. Yeah. I think
um,
probably I think a lot of people probably feel that same frustration because, we're just not all there yet, to receive the exact message. And sometimes our own minds, we have so many layers. So even if you're thinking a message, there's other things going on underneath that, like a feeling or an energy, and different people are picking up on different layers. Some of us receive images or songs or words. Others feel feelings completely in their body, you know? And sometimes we're picking up on feelings that someone else isn't even aware of their own feeling. And that's when it gets
Hmm.
really chaotic. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that uh certain things happen in me which have no logical explanation. And I suspect that the idea of ego is very artificial. It just feelings come from no reason. Sometimes I make decisions which certainly I wouldn't make if it was me. It comes with a signature, like I decided that, but looking back at that decision,
Mm.
there is no motivation for that. There are no prehistory. It just happened. So I feel like I'm being manipulated by some outside players to make mistakes, or the other way around. Some decisions which I make are not mine for sure, but that body, that character in the television series makes stupid or smart decisions because just the plot writers put it in his mind.
Hmm.
And that I think is a so in the literature it's a known phenomenon. I think it's
Hmm.
people describe that you kind of play with what you have, but you don't even have responsibility for what is happening within you.
I
That
think
that also makes me sort of take it makes me take easier whatever happens, because I think we are being tricked into thinking that we are in the body's independent egos and we are like self driving something. We experience that, but I don't think we are actually doing much. I think it's all fake. I think we
that
are universal consciousness, which is just tricked into thinking we are in our bodies.
maybe. I mean, I could see that like I do think that there's a little bit of a trick in this reality, you know, like what you're talking about, that a lot of people talk about, like the avatar or the actor in a play, like we're just here to live this little life and we have to forget and all this stuff. And so there's a little trick in reality all the time. So I could see that, but I actually think that those influences, um, we don't know where they come from. They could be negative influences trying to push us in a certain direction, or they could be positive influences taking on the form of a negative influence to teach us a lesson, or they could all be helping us to realize, oh, I do have a choice here. Actually, once I become conscious and aware, those influences, they are an option that I can take or not take. So when an impulse arises or a little something pushes you in a direction, over time you could go with it if you want and see what happens, or you might choose to say, I'm going to override that impulse and I'm going to find out what is the consequence of that choice. Like what happens when I engage with these forces that are seemingly pushing me to make decisions or move my life. I mean, I think that's an important part of our human evolution, is to start questioning all of that and playing around with it and experimenting, because who knows where all those influences are coming from and what their purpose is, you know? We only know what effect it has on us.
Right. When I was a child, I remember that thought that everybody is an actor, and I thought, yes, possibly everybody is an actor, but what about my mother? She cannot be like not real. She is real. And now I'm like talking to a lot of people, and sometimes they just behave completely irrationally, and I think it's it's supernatural. What people do, how they behave, what decisions they make, it's all an illusion. It's somebody's just playing tricks on me. Like Ramdas was saying that everybody is Maharaji, his guru, and now I think it's all me, universal consciousness, just sort of fragmenting and coming back to me. So it's some sort of reflection of what happens inside happens outside, and that model of the world changes the conclusions what we actually do a lot. And now it's a very different model, and so you make decisions in a very different way.
Mhm.
So next topic I wanted to bring up is I started lots of groups in different places. Oh wait, we need to answer questions. How about we answer questions? So who wants to speak up? There are some questions. Adriana and Adriana, I think you were the first. Do you want to speak up? Did we lose you? Oh, she left. Okay. So Adriana, I watched the commentary. I'm experiencing it. Sorry. Do you want to read the questions and answer them?
I'll read the question. Where is it? Let me see. Adriana. Okay, I watched the documentary, that part.
I don't know. Just
Okay.
pick any questions.
Okay. So the question that she asked is, Max, have you looked at biophotonics and DNA? If so, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts? What is
Oh yeah,
biophotonics?
that's my main topic of study. I published lots of papers. I just finished two chapters and I'm finishing a paper. I discovered, mostly computationally, discovered new way how DNA folds sequence specifically. So my main statement is that we think not only with the brain, not only with neurons, but also with DNA in the brain and DNA in the whole body. And this thinking happens through the solution of DNA in water constantly changing as if it was an octopus. It's a huge chromosome that constantly dance, and it dance in a very sequence specific manner. So I discovered that two double helixes stick to each other if they have identical sequences. And there is a lot of identical sequences in the genome. 55% of the genome is made out of highly repetitive identical sequences. There are like about 50 major subtypes, and each major subtype sticks to each other. So it's like in the English language, what is the common word? Say end. So end would stick to end, and bot will stick to bot, and so on. So there is constant dance, and it's dynamic, and that is part of creating a holographic picture. And that's where universal consciousness lands into the physical body, because the easiest way for the spirit to affect physicality is in seemingly random events. What is random to us is not random to the spirit. So that's where the spirit can affect what happens. So this constant, seemingly random dance of DNA, re-sticking, adhesion of pieces of DNA in sequence-specific manner is where the spirit can easily enter. It's like throwing the dice, and that what binds us to their different levels of our mind. So the person who is disconnected from higher mind is Alzheimer's people. Sometimes you see that the soul comes into the body, but gets bored or uncomfortable and then leaves, and then whatever is left is that automaton, and I think that entering happens through that refolding of DNA. So and light and DNA is magnetic and it's electromagnetic, so it's dance of light essentially. And so the new breakthrough is that homological adhesion, and I'm publishing the paper right now. It's already almost accepted. Yeah, so that is huge, and that is part of the awakening, understanding that we are all the same vibration. And once we understand that we're all the same vibration, that should lead to vibrational ecology. Right now, the ecology on the planet is, I would say, discordant. And that's part why telepathy works so poorly, is that there is so much mess in electromagnetic and subtle waves vibration. There is a war happening in the vibrational field.
Yeah, I feel that. I have a question for you about this too. Do
Uh-huh.
you feel like what how is the sun affecting all of this?
Yeah, sun and planets. Yeah, it's we are, you know, sun is shown in the horoscope in astral chart is one of the major things. So it's vibration of the our planet and the sun and then the other planets.
Mhm.
They all are sort of manifestations of deeper cycles in the matrix. So it's a very complex machine, vibrational machine that designs human body and human experience. And sun for sure is a big conscious player. So we are a mixture of consciousness of the planet and the sun and some other energies, and it's just an illusion that we are a single ego. It's a synthetic construct.
I just brought up the sun because yesterday morning I went outside to just have my coffee in the sunlight. It was a nice, bright, sunny day for once in the winter, and I felt like when I'm sort of meditating or sitting in front, you just out in the sun with my eyes closed, it's like this direct, powerful connection to this energy that is it kind of clears away a lot of that static energy of reality that you were talking about with all the other things that are in the atmosphere and in the psychic atmosphere too. And somehow just being in the sunlight felt like this clearing, powerful way to get right back into a more divine thought process. But also, I feel like in our culture today, there's a lot of fear of the sun because
Mm-hmm.
of skin cancer and different
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But in ancient times, people were worshiping the sun. And I just wonder if you have any thoughts about that. How, because I always go out when I'm under the sunlight, I just repeat in my mind, like, my body is made to adapt to nature.
Mm-hmm.
My body can adapt to everything. And I just try to tell myself that to help keep it safe because I also have that fear that we all have of the damage that the sun can do. But it feels important to connect to the sun and to be in the sunlight. What do you think about that?
Yeah, in San Diego, sunsets are great, and I watch pretty much every sunset. And for me, it's a huge meditation. So uh, in Africa, there is a belief that sunrise and sunset is the points of vibration where you can unite with the universal consciousness, with God. So sun is God, but it's God only during sunrise and sunset. So it's huge. Twilight is also super interesting. It's there are portals opening, and consciously working with light is great. Um, I it's the whole process of sort of incorporating that in a daily routine, and you cannot be too mental about it. It's more like a habit of using Reiki energy, using sun energy, and dancing in a way in the waves and patterns. I go to this dance church, and once in a while there is that fairy person who comes, and when everybody is dancing heavily, any music, this young lady with her boyfriend, and his boyfriend is also pretty heavy, but any music will make her like spin and dance in energies of the music, 100 times faster than everybody else, and that's the ideal. So like the energies around actually dancing are pretty fast. So dancing and the energies, it aligns with the idea of Tao, the Chinese idea of Tao. Essentially, trusting the flow and feeling the flow and playing in the flow. You don't have to make all the decisions. The only decision is to feel the energies and play with the energies. Not that it works well for me, but I feel lots of pain these days. But still, you just decide to be positive, and surprisingly, you come back to some sort of flow. It's not even stability. It's more like a flow, unstable flow. And with psychedelics, I died many times. I went out of the body, and sometimes it was a very painful death. It just kind of experience of death, not maybe not clinical, but you just pop out of the body from pain, and then you come back and you pop again. So after going back and forth, it's so much you still have a connection to the other side, and that makes you sort of be more risky here. It's it's all an illusion anyway. So you dance and relax about the whole thing. Another topic, unless there are questions, another topic I want to bring up, which is I think is super important, is from what we started. Telepathy tapes talks about telepathy, which was known for a long time. Like if you go to this thetelepathytapes.com, pay $10, you get the videos. And the videos of telepaths is one topic. Is they're all imperfect. Basically, every experiment which was done there is not 100% proof for the skeptics. It's not for the skeptics. It's for open-minded people. You can see how it can be possible, but you always can say that there was somebody behind tricking things. And there is a video of a parrot bird being telepathic with a beautiful young female. And the video is about 20 years old, done by Sheldrake, and this is extraordinary. This is, I think, is the best proof. The bird is not only reading the mind, but also is reflecting on what the bird reads in the mind. He reads in the girl's mind. So that is, and what the girl sees. So that is, so the topic is that what is new here, right? We knew already psychic things and telepathy for over 100 years. The new, I guess, is the numbers. More telepaths around. So autists now are candidate telepaths. And also the precision. So when you do experiments with, like Dean Radin does, and Sheldrake with any psi abilities, psychic telepathic abilities, the hit rate for us mortals is barely distinguishable from random. Like if you don't do it on camera, miracles happen every day, all the time. But if you do it in the controlled conditions, if you're being recorded for publication, then you get success rate barely above the chance. It's like with Dean Radin, like if you flip the coin, it's like normal person flips. Normally the coin flips 50% of the time is one side and 50% of the time. But if you put the intention, you would get 52%. If two people like in love want it hard, it will get 55%. So it's barely, it's not never 100%. And now there is a claim that this telepaths, they are 97 to 100% precise. And it doesn't, like in psychic work, it always has to be karmically justified. You can give a person a message if the message is positive and karmically charged and you're helping and there is a request for help. So all these conditions, if are met, then you get it read. Same with Reiki. You can send the healing if the person deserves the healing, if they need the healing. If they reject the healing, you can't really push it. Mm-hmm. But with these autistic telepaths, it seems to be happening 100% of the time. But we didn't get perfect videos. So maybe now it's a little different thing. These people are out there, they barely control their bodies. Mm-hmm. They're telepathic, but this channel goes barely through their hands. And then when you start filming that, then the same problem which was on one side, it moves to another side. In the past, it was hard to get the telepathic message. Now, it's hard to publish the telepathic message. It's something is in a way of Kai and Diane to record it and to publish. So the law of free will is remaining. So basically there is a law of free will that every human has a right to choose between spirituality and materialism. And they cannot be forced to choose. They cannot be given undeniable proof. So now we can believe in that and we can actually experience that, but others have to make a choice without free choice without full proof. That's a test of humanity. Like basically that's one of the hugest tests, lessons, in absence of 100% proof to choose between materialism and spirituality.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's amazing. I mean, the way you break it down, because I feel like we're on the cusp of this big, potentially a shift in our perspective on a more collective level, but people have been saying this for a long time. We're all waiting for this shift and everything, but what you're describing again brings me back to the work of Tom Campbell. Have you ever looked into
Yeah,
his
I looked a bit, yeah.
Okay. So, what I've noticed about people who study psi phenomena is they often start at ground zero, trying to approach everything through a materialistic process. And so they're wasting time in a way, testing all these physical attributes, trying to understand what's going on. You could skip 20 steps if you were well versed in Tom Campbell's theory, and you could start your testing and your scientific method around basing it in this theory. So you could kind of you could skip beyond having to repeat the things that people have already done in the past with telepathic experiments. And they mention on the podcast, like putting people in a submarine or locking them in a Faraday cage or testing these things in different conditions. And what they all learn is that, oh, these aren't thought waves. This isn't a physical thing being transferred. It's happening actually outside of physical matter reality altogether. So there may be effects that we can measure that are appearing within our physical matter reality that we can use our scientific methods, and we can continue to base our understanding of this reality in Newtonian physics, and we can prove things as time goes on, but we're not going to do that until we start by understanding that this phenomena is happening outside of all of that, but it's impacting the physical matter reality in some way. So I just think that what people need on an individual level is their own experience. And what collectively society needs on a mental level is a better framework to start approaching this stuff with. And that's why I think having a scientific theory is a good bridge to that next moment in reality, because we're still primarily focused in our analytical Western mindset, a lot of us, and we're trying to understand things from that perspective. So it's hard for people to make that leap, unless they had their own miraculous encounter or experience or their own evidence, their own experiential evidence. So I think it's those two things together to move us beyond that block that you're talking about.
Right. In Russian culture, it's called the law of Vycherovsky. Vycherovsky is a fictional character, but he pronounced that law that when you come to the limit where your discovery will change the matrix resists. So basically it's a resistance law of the illusion. It's self-protection of Maya.
That feels real.
So I think Kai is a superhuman who is capable of, if not proving, but circumventing and going around that law to awaken humanity even without complete proof. It's just through personal charm, I guess, and talent of telling the stories. And essentially what you already said is maybe bulletproof proof is still prohibited. Maybe they do a lot of experiments, but they will be, even if they do like super good experiments and publish wonderful video, skeptics will say, yeah, we don't believe that anyway. That happened before. there is a lot of other things like ufology and
Yeah.
abduction and all psi phenomena. Everything was proven, and then they just ignore it. So,
Hmm.
materialists can go their own way. There is nothing that can force them. But it's all about creating a new culture centered around autistic and talented psychic individuals for us to help them and to follow them essentially and to learn it. I think it's just the question of learning. There is a lot of communities for learning the psychic abilities, and it's just making it cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the word follow raises a question in my mind because I think what might happen is if everyone starts to think, oh, we have to follow these teachings, we have to follow these people, we might lose the plot. We might lose track of the fact that this is one group of people that is going to show us what all people are able to do. And that's what the messages that were coming through these individuals, they were saying, you're all going to learn this. This is the modern communication. This is the way we're going. This is the way we want to go. That's going to be up to all of us, whether or not we go in that direction. So I think we have to be careful of separating each other. They want to be part of our community. They want to be seen and recognized and included in society. That's something they asked for again and again. They want friendships, they want love, they want to be acknowledged for their gifts, but they're not necessarily saying, you need to follow us. We know what's right, and you're these mere mortals. They're actually just saying, you're not including us. We're just like you. We're part of you. We want to be a part of the greater conversation. We want to be included. So I think we all have to give each other credit because there's more people in other corners of reality that are going to show up with these same types of abilities or other abilities that are really exciting and different. And we all have to keep our eyes open to all of that. I think if we get too focused on one group and we start obsessing over them, that could be a mistake. But I think what they're asking for directly is love and care and support and better systems to allow them to express themselves and be part of the world that we're all in together. Because that's what we're here to do, is like we're here to be together, and we're cutting them off from our culture by saying, oh, there's nothing going on behind that body. There's no consciousness there. I mean, that's crazy. That's the saddest part, I think.
Yeah. For people who listen to us, thanks for those who already connected to me. I got some connections from afar, but I would welcome connections. I would be happy to meet you, the families of autists, on Zoom, and to speak to you through WhatsApp and Telegram and Signal, and just on the phone. And I would share what I can share. And in San Diego, I would be happy to meet in person. I go to a farm with horses, so we can go together and just maybe feed the horses, or at least look at them and have silent meditation around horses, pigs, ducks, geese. No ducks, geese, and dogs, and there are a few more, and chickens. Yeah. So I can share what I can, and my interest is just to connect and to meditate together. I guess lots of interest, but that's one of the interests. So we are open, and yeah, there is a lot to learn how to help autistic souls to enter their bodies. Essentially, I think the key is touch, especially in
Yes.
American and English-speaking culture. Touch is I miss that. In Reiki there is touch, there is healing touch, but in culture, if you touch someone, it's a crime, which is a bit too much. In Russia, South America, some of Europe, Asia, touch is normal, and here it's individualism which is maximized to a crazy extent.
Yeah.
basically in lots of other countries, like in India, people are collective. Like I'm now relatives with Indian, and they're collective. There is family is so much more interconnected. So that I think is the path to become more interconnected physically and energetically, right? Safira, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Shakti, your way of thinking and consciousness is so all-encompassing, intelligent, and very broad, and I just really enjoyed listening to what you have to say. But aside from that, when I was at 12, was I 12 years old? I was in like the end towards elementary school, and I did some volunteering with autistic. They brought us to a place with a lot of autistic people there. And the education system, it would be nice if there was encompassing teaching young people already how to interact with different cultures. It's the same thing with Native Americans. They're so marginalized and there's so few efforts to bring them together. I mean, there are in different states, there are more than others, but it's the same concept. It's like we don't know how to interact, and if we did, like with like what you were just talking about, the ways to reach to bring the soul into the body, or to bring, the purpose of why autism is even existing on the scale it is, et cetera, et cetera. That's all. I would just want to make a comment about that. It would be nice if it was introduced into the education system about how to interact, just like when we are doing international diplomacy, people are, you learn about, like Max, you just mentioned different cultures and how to interact with them. Some places you can touch, some places you can. Some cultures you shake the hand, it's an insult, it's so different. So it's just another culture that we haven't really taken, I shouldn't say we, many have not taken the time because it seems so out of, I don't know where I'm trying to say, it seems so out of what's somebody else can fill in the word. Think I'm trying to say. Just so out of the norm, out of just
Yeah, there is no conventional path to do that. Like
Yeah.
there is a prohibition in America even to see children. You can see only your own children, and you have to have a license to see children of other people.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. But anyway, that's all. But I really appreciate the discussion because it's a topic that it doesn't even come into my purview usually. So it's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's new to me too. I was surprised to find it.
Yeah.
So for safety, I can say if you guys, autistic families, if you want to be anonymous, I would keep your anonymity. If you want to publish your tests, I will be happy to run the tests either locally or remotely. I can organize the telepathic test on Zoom so we can record it and publish that. And if you want some of anonymity, you can wear dark glasses, so you don't really have to publish your names. But if somebody wants to test your telepathic and other abilities and psychic abilities, I can organize that. And also I could share what I know about how the soul works and how possibly help autists, how you could establish your telepathic contact with parents with autistic children.
Max, I just thought about something from the podcast too. Can I bring up one of the episodes again?
You shouldn't even ask. Go ahead.
Okay. Remember how one of the children, his mother was in an abusive relationship, and so when he was trapped without communication, he knew all the thoughts of the abuser, and he was carrying that weight with him of not being able to intervene and help. And I think this is an important little moment in this whole work of art for us to notice, which is that anyone who's moving into telepathic abilities is going to have a very strong spirit, because you will be faced with a moment where you have to forgive yourself for what you couldn't do and what you didn't know before. I think that's a big part of like the spiritual evolution that we're on. We're going to start recognizing, oh my God, every time I think a mean thought about someone, I'm sending that thought out into the world. Like, and it might go even more intense, like things that I thought I could hide from the world. Maybe I wasn't really hiding them. Maybe somebody else knew about that all along. And as these revelations come to the surface, people are going to freak out and they're going to think like, oh, I'm not worthy of anything. Like maybe I shouldn't even be here any longer. I'm horrible, because we're going to go through this radical growth that causes us to have to face our darker sides and the things that we didn't know. So I just think that was an interesting part because there's two aspects to it. You might be carrying around other people's information that you never wanted to know, but you also might be carrying the realization that, oh, I myself was not operating at the best level with my thoughts. And all you can do is kind of start where you're at and move forward. And you can't get lost in feeling horrible and feeling guilty because I think that's going to be a big blocker to progress also. It's like, and we're going to have to forgive each other because we're going to realize, oh, we're all just human. We all think bad thoughts. We all judge each other. We judge the world around us. We're criticizing things in our minds all the time. We're making assumptions about people. Oh, that person talks weird. Maybe they're stupid. Maybe not, but as we move through this process, we have to see ourselves and say, oh, I only knew what I could know. And now I'm growing beyond that, but I can't go back and beat myself up because I think we're going to have to keep it moving, basically. I think we have to move through a lot of painful realizations to get to the other side of this new type of communication space that we all want to be in together. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, you say everything that I wanted to say. So I'll just confirm that from my own. I like to add my own experience. Like I wrote a book about deception, 2013. That was an interesting book. It was about. I was first with in contact with the aliens through a channeler, Jim, and I realized they understand us very little. They have no clue how to understand humans. So I wrote a book for them. It's called Welcome to Earth, and I explained to them how we are here, why we are so weird, why we are so deceptive, and the deception is part of the fabric of reality on the planet, and they have to deal with that. And that was in the middle of the book. I came up with that idea of human colony. Basically, let's meet astrally there, and you will learn about us, we will teach you about us, and together we will work on awakening the planet. So we have now that astral place. That was one thing. And another thing is forgiving yourself and forgiving others. That's an interesting exercise. Super interesting. And finding the darkness. And now with my work on DNA, I just realized the darkness is an absolutely necessary component of this fabric of reality. When you talk space-time reality, darkness is part of it. You cannot remove darkness without destroying space-time. You cannot remove time, keep only space. You cannot remove space, you cannot remove darkness. Light and darkness is in every cell essentially. It's construction, destruction, creation, destruction is part of life in every cell. You cannot really have life without destruction. Like if you look at the forest,
Yep.
To have forest, you have to have things dying. And it's moving in time forward. And if you reverse, then death becomes birth. So good and bad is in most cases, good and bad are related to the direction of time. If you reverse the time, good and bad flip. The only bad which is independent of time is ugliness, like discordance, lack of harmony. That could be in any look from any direction as discordance. So that redefines bad as discordance, and that's another another aesthetic relation to good and bad. So basically making everything harmonious, even the darkness. That's a super interesting exercise. So that said, I'm not afraid. I allowed aliens to read my mind. They say my mind is a mess, and they have a really hard time reading it compared to others.
Mm.
I don't put it in order intentionally. The chapters I wrote, the recent ones, are imperfection is the basis of life. Imperfection is the core of life. You cannot have living cell without imperfection in it. DNA has to have imperfection. Water structure in the cell has to have imperfection. That's inherent ugliness is the basis of life. You cannot have life on the planet or in a galaxy without continuous perpetual imperfection and competition between yin and yang and things of that sort. So that gives me sort of peace of mind that ugliness within me is part of this synthetic ego construct, and I have to work with what I got.
Yeah. And it's fine, right? It's just we're all working with whatever we have going on, and
So
yeah.
the flying saucers, the drones, I have the theory now.
Ooh.
I don't know if it's true, but it just fits all the parameters. So for those who haven't heard about that, we had flying saucers around the globe forever. But recently, starting from November 12th, they pretend to be drones. They flash green and red lights, as they're supposed to do. Like airplanes and other helicopters must flash the lights. They have white lights, so three lights: green, red, and white. They make noise sometimes, like which sounds like a helicopter noise, but otherwise they do miracles. They can hang in the air for hours, while any drones, any helicopters cannot hang more than a few minutes. They just run out of fuel. And they are not recordable by normal hardware, like they don't have normal signatures. So they seem to be alien technology, and they demonstrate over the military bases, starting from the dusk and ending when people go to sleep. So it's a clear demonstration. Normally UFOs hide, but these ones, they clearly show themselves. Here we hang in, not afraid of anyone. No, they are not shootable. They are not capturable. You can't kill them. They just hang in there. And among them, there are some real UFOs, like orbs, like spherical ones, much more rare. So, and that's the fact. And they're like there in the open, demonstrating for a couple months now, over a couple months, and all over the world, not only New Jersey, but they have the key tag is new NJ drones. So we know from the history that UFOs were demonstrating themselves when the nuclear war was approaching. They would show over nuclear installations, and they would disarm them, and they would disarm everything and then shoot the rockets in the air without nuclear things. And well, basically they gave a lot of indications to the Earth military that large-scale nuclear war is not allowed. So my theory is that after the creation of artificial infection for last several years, sort of panic and sort of police state around the globe, the next plan was for the nuclear war, and the UFOs demonstrated they wouldn't allow, and they sort of watch and give the sign to the military that nuclear war is not permitted. And that explains why they are demonstrating. The reason they are showing themselves as drones is that also they respect the free will of humanity, and also respect the free will of elected officials. So they are not there to give to push disclosure. They are not there to show that the aliens exist. They wait for elected officials to announce that. So they give the leeway for the government to ignore that and for the public to ignore that, while giving a signal to the military that the war is not permitted. The reason they hang up only in the dark is that in the daylight you would see that these are not drones. Then the technology is such that in the daylight they would still be visible as UFOs with some sort of flashing lights, but in the dark they can overcome their actual shape and pretend that they are drones. So that fits the pattern. And the reason there are a few spherical ones is, I don't know, maybe there are different groups there. Maybe there is somebody else. Maybe there are human-made UFOs there as well. But my take is that my theory hypothesis is that there's the aliens preventing the war.
I like your theory. That's a really complete way of looking at it. I know there's a book by Robert Hastings called UFO and Nukes that's very extensive research about how these things appear over nuclear bases and all of the activity throughout history that would reinforce exactly what you're saying now, that they're here to stop something disastrous from happening. I mean, I can only hope that that's the case because that feels really comforting to think that these greater powers are here to protect humanity. And I do think that there's a lot of research to suggest that these UFOs have many different cloaking capabilities and have a tendency to appear in different ways throughout the course of history, based on the cultural perception of the time and what people are willing to see or what they're able to see. But also, the Tom Campbell theory has a little principle called the psi uncertainty principle. And it's just like what you were mentioning earlier about how all these telepathic things happen when nobody's looking or when you can't record it.
Yep.
Why does that happen? Why can you levitate in your room when nobody's looking, but when you try to show your friends, it just is not going to happen? And that's because we all have free will, like you said. Tom Campbell calls it the psi uncertainty principle. It's a little wiggle room for the system of reality to say, you know what? If you're not ready, you're not ready, and we're not going to force it. And everyone has to abide by that rule. I think it's interesting. I think that is all very probable.
Thank you. Right. Yeah. Do you fly?
Fly?
Yeah.
A plane?
No. Like
Like fly? You know, I wanted.
levitate, or at least in a dream.
I fly in dreams, and when I was a kid, I was obsessed with flying, and in my mind, I thought, oh, we should all be able to fly. Why can't we fly here? This is crazy. So I would jump off things. I tried to make little hang gliders. I tried to make flying contraptions, like hanging two ropes from the porch rafters with a towel so I could swing in it and practice flying like Superman. I was obsessed with flying, but
So what's your way of flying?
in a dream,
Yeah.
I will have to jump off of a ledge or I have to jump into the air.
Uh-huh. And
And
then
that's
in
what
which
gets it
position do
going.
you
And,
fly?
and then I kind of get it going from there.
In which position do you fly?
Kind of in a vertical
Like that?
orientation. Like, I
Not like
mean,
that?
I think I start off like this and then I get more like this. But it's not like completely flat. It's like I jump off and then I kind of angle.
Right. I do the same. And how high do you fly?
Um, I've seen myself in like an atmosphere with clouds. So that kind of atmospheric type of, I'm in a lot of places that seem earthly in a way in my
So you
dreamscape.
fly pretty high.
Pretty high, but sometimes it's like as high as a building. Like I remember one where I was in a courtyard jumping off of like a staircase landing, that was a couple stories up, and I was just about that high. I wasn't above the buildings. I was kind of in, you know,
Yeah,
50 feet off the ground, maybe.
because I fly very low. I fly
Okay.
in this position, hands down, so I can. If I fall, I do you have a fear of falling
Yes.
when you fly?
Yeah, when I started off, when I'm about to get it going, I'm always like, oh no, am I gonna fall? You
But
know,
when you fly, do you have a fear of falling?
no.
I do. Yeah, essentially when I fly, Sophia, just a second. When I fly, I feel that I have to hold this some sort of state of mind which allows me to fly. If I forget, then I will fall.
Mm,
And but I fly very low. I can go over the buildings, but comfortably I will fly just above the heads of people walking around. And like a very typical for me would be flying within some sort of university with a lot of people walking around. I would fly over them, kind of, hey guys, hey, I'm flying here. So like Harry Potter's kind of university.
mm-hmm.
Sifir, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not impatient once I put my hands up. It's just you're less rude than just jumping in. So anyway, we're talking about flying in dreams and flying, and this is a topic that never comes up really. But I just had a dream last night that I was in like this fantasy movie, and everybody was doing all kinds of different fantastical things. And there was one man who could fly, and it was time for us to all leave to part. And normally, he wasn't supposed to show the regular people that he could fly, but he was like, "What the heck? It's going to be faster." So he just went up in the air, and he just flew where he had to go. That's all. I'm just sharing a dream that was very synchronistic with the topic right now. I thought that was interesting.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
So I'm sure it's from my past life, and it's possibly from the blue, small fat blue Pleiadians, which are Lakesh's planet, Lakesh's several planets. So that's at least what Lakesh said. It's most likely that past life. But I just was wondering, maybe we can find a common pattern of flying. But yeah, also yeah, starting is always sort of tricky. Kind
And
of
I know
getting
what you
into
mean
the
about
space and then levitating.
the way you said you're afraid of falling. What I got from it is like you're almost like holding yourself, you're holding your energy in the flying mode. You're kind of like keeping it there, and if you drop it, you might drop.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
can relate to that because I do feel like I'm using my energy to get myself into it, but I don't usually think of it as like, oh, I'm afraid I'll fall, but there is an engagement happening. It's like I'm consciously holding myself in flying mode.
Yeah, I spoke to many alien races through Jim channeling, and lots of them are flying, like Pleiadians on Taygeta. I think Erans fly, and lots of other Pleiadians fly. Not sure if Lyrans can fly. I think Yael, you know Yael?
No.
Yael is a race of gray human hybrids, very close to humans. They can pass as a human. Many of them just walk here as tourists.
Mm.
It's the hybrid race which is the closest to us, and they're very nice, very mental, and very telepathic, and they have the property of translocating. Basically, they can just shift from one place to another with their mind.
Huh.
So
I
yeah, lots of
I never knew they were called Yael or Yael. Is that what you said? Yael?
Yael.
Yael. Okay.
Yael.
Okay.
Check them out. It's
Mhm.
Sean. Sean forgot the last name. Sean Swan.
Hmm.
Swan. I think Sean Swan is the main Yael channeler, but there there is lots of Yael. I'm related to them in many ways.
Hmm.
So that's good friends. They're not, although they're related to Greys, they're not associated politically with the Zetas.
Hmm.
So we're good.
Yeah.
The question came, repeat about 23andMe. So that's the site, xg1.org. You can contact me there. I explain the principle there, xg1.org. And you can find maxrempel.com, find all the contacts. And how do you find Shakti? I will post Shakti's contact on maxrempel.com. Uh, do you have announcement how to find you?
I can use my new whiteboard. I was gonna do like you're doing with putting up a little note. I'll just
Uh,
put it up
sure, but I think your
here.
name, you can see the name on the screen, Shakti Howeth, is
Yeah,
sufficient to find her. So
yeah.
it's essentially the project is,
Is that backwards?
no, it's good. Shack Stocks,
Okay,
I see it now, all
that's
right.
my YouTube.
Yeah, Shack Stocks. And XG1 project is for analyzing the DNA. Basically, email me. It's so far we did only 4 families, of which 3 are analyzed. So you need to have 2 parents and a child, and the parent mother should have ideally the experience of abduction. Remember experience of abduction before the pregnancy, and that would be a good indication. So there is a good chance that the child has insertions in the genome, and essentially I will guide you how to submit your sample to 23andMe and how to give me the data, and I will analyze it and will give you the results whether you have alien DNA insertions. I cannot tell if it's alien, but if you have non-parental DNA insertions, and they are sometimes they are very clearly seen as like a huge chunk, very visible of out of millions of markers, it would be like 30 markers sitting in a row right in the middle of some chromosome.
So interesting.
So that's very doable. Obviously, if more money is available, I can do much more. But that's like
Hmm.
a 23andMe analysis is $100 per person. So for $300, roughly, you can do that. And obviously, the software is public, so you can run it on your computer. But it takes some programming skills. I mean, you just have to be able to run Python. But I can run it for you.
So if
Um,
we had the 23andMe data, we can just send you, is it in like a
You
PDF
need 3
format?
people related, a
Yeah,
child and 2 parents. If it's
yeah,
just one parent, it's not enough.
yeah.
I need to see that both parents' DNA, and if classically it's 50-50. If there is 49, and 2%, that's huge. It's a discovery.
The question I just want to clarify is for people that have all 3 sets of data, how are they sending you the data from
Oh, it's
23andMe?
hard. I have to guide you. You
Okay.
can. I mean, there is a you go to 23andMe, you say, I want to download my data, and in 3 days you get emailed, your data is ready for download. You
Mm,
download your data, then you put it on Google Drive, send me the link.
got it.
It's not for computer literate people. It's pretty easy, but if someone cannot put things on Google Drive, it's not huge. It's 20 megabytes. It's not huge.
Hmm. Okay.
All right. Our time is actually is good. We planned 2 hour 15 minutes, and we're exactly on time. Shakti, thank you very much for coming. You were very helpful. I hope that our message will be heard and understood. Our intention was great, and we finish with a blessing. Would you like to channel a blessing or to pronounce your favorite blessing or sing a favorite song?
I'll just say the blessing in my mind and heart, which is may we all be connected in love. May we all be connected in the desire for deeper understanding, and let's have fun.
Yes, let it be so. Fun was my key intention for today. Maybe
Good.
it wasn't that much fun, but that was the intention for
Oh,
sure.
this is so much fun for me. Thank you so much for inviting me. And these are the most exciting things to think about and talk about. And I'm really glad that we got to do that today. Thank you.
Great, and thanks for coming on such a short notice. I emailed Shakti last night.
I know I
That's
wasn't sure. I was
how
like,
well I planned the time.
luckily I'm free today.
But
So
I was reacting to your video on the telepathy tapes, which came out yesterday or day before, something like that.
yeah.
So I couldn't find you before because you didn't publish that video. So I just immediately reacted and you reacted fast. Are you an air sign by any chance?
I am not an air sign. I'm an earth, and I have a lot of earth and water. I have Capricorn sun, Cancer rising, and Sagittarius moon.
Ah,
So I guess there's a little fire in there, but not really a
yeah.
lot of air.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm mostly in the air.
What do
Yeah.
you have?
If I could remember. Aquarius sun. What else is there? Moon. I have like the mental one is in the Capricorn for sure. What
Okay.
the, which one is mental? I forgot.
That could
Mercury?
be your, yeah, that could be your Mercury in Capricorn. It could be your, maybe your
They
rising
have
sign.
lots of Capricorns.
Yeah, love
Yeah.
Capricorn.
Okay. So I will do my chant again. Let me do something. Oh, ya na 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 na, holla 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 holla, oh ya na hiya na hiya, na 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 na. All right, with that we close. You know how to find us. maxrempel.com is the easiest. Hucolo is good too. And find Shakti Howeth just by Googling that, and Shakti Talks is great as well. All right, goodbye, and I will disconnect from